Good morning, everyone. You're going to laugh. I thought I was online. I've been talking for 15 minutes. This is hilarious. I forgot to press actually live stream, so I'm not actually live. That's hilarious. I did say hi in the chat, and people were saying, where was I? And that's why I couldn't work out what was going on. So that's really, really interesting. That's hilarious. So guys, I am here. Hi, Vic. How are you? Hi, Casper. I only woke up to this, Casper, because you actually said, David, where are you? So I wasn't actually quite sure what was going on. That's really interesting. Dave's here as well. So g'day, guys. How are we going? I've got some really interesting stuff to talk to you about today. It's actually quite hot in here. I think my glasses are fogging up. I shouldn't have had this coffee that I've just had. Now, let's go through some really interesting rumours, because some of these are going to probably freak you out when I talk about them, because a couple of them are really sort of out there, I thought. One of them particularly, which I'll talk about in a second, was I mentioned this the other day when I was talking about the A6500, and I want to talk to you about that as well, because it's really interesting. It's a great rumour. Brad's here. When do you sleep, Brad? It's early morning here, mate, so it's actually only 9:46 here in Melbourne. What else have we got? BMCP's here. Hi, mate. How are you? There's a stack coming in now. Well, let's go to the first story, because I'm really... this really freaks me out when I look at this this rumour. I don't think I'm going to talk to you. No, I will. But it's incredible. So let's go through the latest news. Now, I'm going to bring you up to this rumour that was out yesterday. So let's go over... Now, it's only an SR2 at this stage, but they're now saying that is it impossible for a new A6000 rumour? What they're saying is that someone in here was speaking to... now, they were saying it's only SR2, but I did say when I was talking about this the other day, I had it in another live discussion, and I mentioned that I wouldn't surprise me if Sony released a new A6700, something like that, to combat what the GH5 had to offer. So I wouldn't be surprised if out of the blue Sony released this near the end of the year or early next year. It would not surprise me one little bit. So what they're saying is that there may be a new camera announced, but they're not actually saying that it will be a A6700. They're actually saying down here, if you read it, that instead, they're saying it's not going to be an A6700. Instead, it's something like an Alpha A7000 or the A6000 so this is a really interesting rumour. And like I said to you, it actually would not... I would not be surprised at all if this actually comes out. Like I've said in a few other videos, that Sony do have to release something to compete with, say, the GH5, and they have to bring out something that's capable of shooting 4K 60p, and also something, hopefully, with something like a flip-out screen, something like that. And it wouldn't surprise me if they do bring out a new A6000. Now, I also do think eventually they're going to have to bring out, say, a new 7S model that will give those features as well. That's more aimed at the high-end professional type photographer. But the A6000 tends to sell like hotcakes. And if they can bring something out that is really, really good, that has those features in it, this thing is going to sell in the bucket loads. They're going to sell that many of them. I would buy it in a heartbeat. So it's a really interesting rumour, you know. And if it's funny, like when you looked at the comments down below that, people were saying, yes, it's going to be true because I've just bought the A6500. So it's really interesting, and I would not be surprised. So let me know too what you guys think about whether this is possible, whether you think that Sony just may pull this one out of the hat, out of nowhere, and really shock people and release this. This could even potentially be announced before the A7 III. You never know the way Sony does things. We didn't think the A6500 was going to come out when everyone bought the A6300. So this is a really, really good one. Now, whether they would change the body a little bit for the heating, because the issue, I suppose, at the moment is with something like the A6500, that body is so small that if it was going to run 4K 60p, for instance, there may be an overheating issue. Unless they bring out a new processor that can handle that. And remember, the better the processor, the less hard that has to run, so its performance is much better for less heat. So they may come out with a new processor. And I'm also wondering whether that's what's holding up the other cameras as well. It may be that that's taken into account. Now, one of the interesting things that I read about this new a7000 Rumour or whatever it was they were saying that this was well on the way, apart from the fact of the earthquake in their sensor factory halted the development of this camera. So perhaps now they're getting that back up and running again. So there's now the rumours are going to start coming that this A6700 or A7000 or A6002 is going to be announced. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised one little bit. So let me know too in the comments down below whether you think that's a possibility. Or if you have an A6500, would you then upgrade to an A7000 if it had those features like I mentioned, the 4K 60p and a fully articulating flip-out screen? I'm hoping that's what they actually bring to the market. But let's see. It's only an SR2 updated rumour at this stage. Delta Dave said, "I can't believe I felt sorry for you." What's that about? I'm not sure what that's about, Dave. So let's go to the second rumour today, which is another really interesting one. It's an SR4, so it's fairly good chance that this is going to come about. Samyang have actually said that they're going to bring out a 135. Well, this is the rumour that Samyang are going to bring out a 135. It's going to be announced at the end of this year. Now, I don't know what f-stop this will be, whether it's going to be a 1.8, a 2.8, or whatever it's going to be. But the 135 is an amazing focal length for doing portraits. As you all know who follow me, I love the Batis. I have always used around the 85 focal length, but I have used 135s before as well. And to be honest, a 135 is a much better, more beautiful rendering if you're talking about photographing a female's face. It's just usually the issue for me is the weight and size of these lenses is so much bigger than what the something like an 85 will give you. But I may be interested to try this one out. I have been sort of waiting too to see if Sony release one of these, whether that will be a 1.8 or whatever. But if it is a 1.8 lens, it's going to be some massive honking lens that I'm not sure I want to lug around that weight. This one may not be as heavy as that, but if it's anything to go by the 135 1.4, that is also a reasonably big heavy lens, I think. So we'll have to wait and see what they announce. But if you were doing video as well with this lens, it would be stunning if you're dealing with that out of focus rendering and the beautiful compression that it adds to the face. Like I said, the 135 is probably the best lens you can use as a prime lens for doing portraits. So it's an SR4, so they're saying this is going to be announced later on in the year. I may try this if it comes out, because I would be curious to know if it's any good, you know. But at this stage, for me personally, I've only ever tried I'm only using the native Sony lenses due to the fact that I love the autofocus and things just work. And that's the thing for me, being a paid photographer, I have to make sure that everything I use works first time. So now another one that I'm really interested as well, and I will go back to your questions, guys, for question time at the end. So ask any questions in the live chat and I'll go back through them. What else? We've got Sony have said, well, Sony haven't said, this is just someone saying this. Now there's a convention going on at the moment in Amsterdam, and it's the IBC, International Broadcasting Convention, and someone has said that they spoke to someone on one of the stands, and they actually said that unofficially that S-Log is coming out to the A9, but only in 8-bit. They're saying that according to him, it took a lot of time because of the new sensor design. So they're saying it's actually hopefully going to be coming out. Like I said, I was sort of mentioning in previous discussions that I do really like the video on the A9 is outstanding. It actually is really, really beautiful video. It's probably a fraction better than the A6500. The issue for me is if I'm shooting, say, a bride and I need that complete dynamic range, I can't get that shooting with the A9 because, for instance, if a bride is standing in the shade or in the sun, but I also need some detail in the background, like if the groom is standing in shade, so I need that dynamic range. The only way that I can get that dynamic range is to use something like S-Log or something like that. I have to be able to alter gamma and things like that in it to get. Now, I don't do it all the time. A lot of the time I'm just doing run and gun and just leaving it on auto, and that's fine. It's just for those occasions where I need that full dynamic range, and the only way you can get that is to use some sort of log profile. So I am really hoping that Sony are going to bring this out, and we keep hearing bits about it occasionally. Whether they're even going to hold out on this until they release a new A7S or something, so that doesn't take away sales from that, then they may release this for the A9. I'm not sure, but I am hoping that it actually comes out. And I'm sure anyone with the A9 probably agrees with me that they would love to have that feature as well. So, let's just hope that Sony do bring that out and listen to their customers and not try and hold things back. It may be that they're not holding it back. It might be that perhaps with that new sensor that they're having trouble getting log on it, but let's see. I mean, I know with the new Nikon D850, they do have a flat profile on there. It's not a log profile, but it is a flat profile. And so they're giving you with that sensor. The A7R2 has it, the A6500 has it, the new RX camera from the other day has it. So come on, Sony, give it to us in your most high-end camera at the moment. I want it on that camera, so if I do shoot video, I can do it. Sports photographers also will be shooting some video. If they're out on a field and it's an incredibly bright day or whatever, they may want to shoot some video and shoot logs so that they can get that dynamic range back later on. So, just give it to us, Sony. Have a listen to your customers. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about was this. I'm really happy about this. Some of you are going to be saying, oh my God, it's way too expensive. And yes, it is really expensive. This Thursday coming, I'm actually going to be picking up one of the A9. I've been asked to do a review of the Profoto A1. It's actually a very small on-camera flash that Profoto have just released. Now, it's very expensive. It's around about $1,000 US. And before everyone goes jumping up and down and carrying on like crazy, like I know I've seen online where everyone's saying you can buy Godox and everything for similar money. Yes, you can get a lot cheaper gear out there. I look at this from the fact that if you can drive, if you go into a location, you can get there basically in the same time if you're driving a Ferrari or if you're driving a Ford. Clearly, there's differences, though, in the cars. One is ultimate quality. One is still really okay and fine. It'll still get you to the same destination, but it may not have the same quality and features. Now, that's just the way I'm talking from a Profoto user. So a lot of you, I know, even in my live chats, shoot Godox and things like that. But for me particularly, this is probably a no-brainer. I'm not sure whether I'll get this, but I'm testing it for a couple of days. But there's another couple of interesting things that I want to talk to you about with this gear. It looks like this if you're looking at it. It has Magmod type attachments where you attach gels and also light modifiers onto the actual camera. So these are interesting things that I'm dying to actually try out. I think it also has like a focusing mechanism where you just turn the dial up the top, and it's a 75 watt globe. But look, in Australia, it's $1,495. It's incredibly expensive. I mean, really expensive. So it's not cheap at all. But I'm going to be doing a test of this for you guys. Now, you may not be that interested, but some people who have Profoto will definitely be interested. Where this is quite interesting for me is it's around about $500 for me to buy the Air Remote. So if someone was buying Profoto gear and they don't have to buy the Air Remote, this could be really interesting because then you're not paying so much for the flash because it has an Air Remote built in. And the beauty with this is this can control my B1s as well. So I could have this on camera and then be using my other 3 B1s around in different scenarios and be all controlling it from this one light on my camera. But there's some things that I really do want to test, and it will be like, how does this compare to my Sony flashes? So I'm going to do tests like that where I'm comparing how it is on full power, say for instance, between that and my Sony. So I'll let you know about the power differences in this. So yeah, I'm testing this next week. So I've got it for the whole weekend. I've been lucky enough because it's not released until mid-October, November, I believe. But I've been given one to try for a couple of weeks. They're not paying me to do anything. They've just basically, I buy my gear through this one shop, and they've asked me if I'd love to try this out and basically review it. And I thought, why not? It'll be great. So they're not paying me to do it. And I certainly will talk about it from that aspect. But the beauty too is that there is only a Canon and Nikon version of this that's coming out. So what I'm going to be doing is the Sony version, I believe, is coming out much later, but you can use this off camera with the Air remote. I don't think I have no, I haven't got the Air remote. So as long as I put the Sony Air remote on the camera, I can then use this off camera. So I'm going to try and do some off camera work with this in a model shoot in Melbourne. And try it that way, and that way I can test it as how the power is, say for instance, compared to using one of my Sony flashes, because I am interested to see how that works out, what this 75 watts actually works out to. But the interesting thing is, because there's no Sony version at the moment, I'm going to have to hire, well, I'm not hiring it, they're giving me one. They're going to give me a Canon to try, and I've never shot Canon in my life, so this is going to be really interesting. I think they're going to give me a 5D Mark IV and a 70-200 lens, so I am also going to be able to test, if you like, the A9 versus perhaps I think it's going to be the Mark IV. I'll be able to test both of them against each other, so perhaps if I get time, I'm going to be able to, say, do a skin comparison test and things like that. So I'll let you know how both cameras actually work, whether you'll find that interesting or not. But that's going to be really interesting. So I will be using this Profoto unit with Canon and with my Sony gear. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting test. So yeah, I've got it for the whole weekend. So I'll let you know how that all goes. But that's it for news today. I'm going to bring up the questions in a second, but I'm leaving shortly to go and pick up a new Apple TV. I want one of the 4K ones that's just released today by Apple, so I'm going into Melbourne to pick that up. But let me bring up this. We'll do some questions, because I want to go through with you guys any questions that you've actually left. Let me just see if I can move this. All right. So fire away if you have any questions, guys, because I'll answer those for you. Let me just hide that. Questions. Casper said, boo, I'm not sure what that was about. Casper's also said Sony a7000 Mark II is the next camera. Let me see if I can move this. I'm not looking so far away for you guys. Where is that? Oh, there it is. All right. Let me come up. A7000, so I'll be interested to see if any of you have made comments about that in them down here. Casper said Sony A99 is all you need. Yeah, it's true. The only thing is because I shoot multiple cameras when I'm shooting weddings, Casper, I do need multiple cameras, because remember, I'm shooting fusion video and stills at the same time now all the time, so that I do need multiple cameras to be able to do that, to get different angles and things like that. So it's important for me to have multiple angles. So the A9 is not enough for me personally running a business. If you were not running a business, yes, it would be. What else are we? Yes, going to get that 135, so that's interesting. We've already got, Oreo said he would love to get that. He's thinking that it's an f2. Okay, well, that's interesting. That would be a lovely lens at f2. Anything sort of f2, 2.8, that lens, that focal length is going to be really lovely. 1.8 would be incredibly heavy, so it's going to be interesting to see if anyone brings out a 1.8, 135 lens. What else? Next FE Sammy before the 135 will be the 35 1.4 AF. That's confirmed. That's Mike saying that. I haven't got the obviously the Sammy one, but I've got the Sony one, the Sony 35 1.4, and I adore that lens. It's incredibly sharp, and I use that all the time. I love the way you have the aperture ring is clickless. It focuses incredibly, and I just love that 35mm focal length. That's why now I'm shooting the A6500 with the 24 1.8 lens. I mean, it's just such a great focal length. That gives you the 35 focal length. I just love that focal length. The Batis price is a joke for the f2.8. Yeah, I know, it's very expensive. I don't know why they've priced that high. It probably is a really beautiful lens though, and I haven't tried that. It's still it is really expensive though. But like I said, I suppose with the Profoto, if it's what you want and you've got the money to justify it, really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you have that money and it's something you love, they'll still sell them. And you know, I guarantee that they probably have sold a few of those Batis, but they could have priced out a little bit less and sold heaps more of them. But, you know, like I said, I've used 135 before, and it is a really lovely focal length for video or for photos, for women, particularly for the face. For that price, I'd rather buy a 70 to 200 for $600 more. Is that the price of the Batis? Sony A9 video is sweet. It is. It's really, really good video. I've been surprised how good the video actually is on that camera. Like I said, the only thing that's really lacking is log, so I really hope that they bring that out. Jess said, please give us a Sony FE 135 f1.8 or f2. And I hope, yeah, you're right. I hope they do release that too, because I'd love to try one if there was one released. Sniper V said, no excuse. All Sony 4K capable cameras should have S-Log, especially the A9. Yeah, I don't know why they haven't released that. There's just no real excuse for it, unless they're saying that it is hard, but I can't believe that's true. I can't believe it's that hard to write that S-Log. But then again, I'm not a software developer, so it may be that hard, but let's see. Oreo said, if I could afford them, I'd surely buy Profotos, no doubt. I mean, like, they are expensive, but a lot of the time you get what you pay for. The thing with them too, guys, and this is what you have to understand, remember, I'm not paid. I'm not like people trying to sell stuff. I've bought those Profoto lights with my own money. They've never ever failed me. I've dropped them. I've dropped them from actually sometimes from incredible heights, and they've never faltered. They never misfire ever. I've never had them misfire. The light is consistent every single time. Like I said, I can keep my Profoto B1s will keep up at 11 frames per second, and they'll just go bang, 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 bang. And I can be, you know, I can be almost to the point where a person's only sort of this big and they'll fire every single time. And I never have to worry about anything like that. The other really good thing too is if I travel, Profoto gear is always in rental shops. They always have these in rental shops for hire, because the stuff is in industrial standard gear. And this is the thing, people always talk about expenses, but remember, at the end of the day, like I said, you can get to the same location in two same cars, Ford and a Ferrari. They'll both get there the same time, but one is a beautiful car and the other one is fine, but they're still not the same. And that's the only way that I can say it. I've used Jimby, I've used all these other flash units, and they just don't. And I've still got a Jimby unit. I've got the HD600 here. They still don't work the same way, and they just don't feel as consistent, and they don't fire as refresh as quickly and things like that. But that's just talking from me being a Profoto fanboy, and I admit that I am. I love the Profoto gear. If it's not right for you, you just don't buy it. I mean, I'm not forcing anyone, and like I said, I don't get anything from people buying Profoto, so it doesn't make it the slightest bit of difference to me whether you guys buy it or not. I'm just talking to you from my aspect of it. Yes, it is expensive, but sometimes you get what you pay for, and they'll last me for years. So, yeah. What else have we got in here? Whether you need it or not doesn't matter. Some people do, and that means you should have it. And that's exactly right, Sniper V, and that's the way I talk about it. It's the same with the A9 too. You can get great photos with the A6500. Do you need the A9? Probably not, but it still helps in certain situations to have the features that the A9 has. You can, like I said, you can still take the same photos though, you know, and it works down to the same thing. If you can afford it and you can justify it for what you're doing, money really shouldn't matter that much, but as long as you can justify it. Robert said, hi David from Alabama. Hi Robert, how are you? Jess said, have you tried Tonica to f20mm? No, I haven't. Like I said, the only I haven't got any third-party lenses, Jess. Everything I've got is Sony branded. The GH5 is different because I have got a couple of off-brands with the GH5, like the Voigtlander I've just bought. But with the Sony, because the autofocus means so much to me, I've basically been doing all that. But having said that, now with a lot of the video, I do tend to sometimes do a lot of manual focus now, and I have got much better at that. So I probably should look at getting some third-party lenses, or trying them at least sometime. Mike said, I have the Samyang 35 1.4 and it's great. Yeah, and I've heard nothing but good reports about that, Mike, as well. Oreo said, Batis 135 is Apo. That means best glass, hence expensive. And it probably is. Like, I haven't tested that lens, so I can't tell you how good that lens is. But I know what my Batis 85 is like, and I just love that lens. I love the feel of it. They do just feel beautiful. It's weather sealed. I'm not sure if the 135 is weather sealed, but I'm so happy with my Batis. But having said that, I may not, if I hadn't got the Batis now, I may not have bought the Batis. I may have bought the Sony 1.8 version, because they're almost as good. The only difference is, I suppose, it doesn't have the image stabilization in the lens, and it's not weather sealed, which can be a big difference if you're shooting outdoors. So they are one big difference to get the Batis over, say, the Sony 85. Prince said, "Hi David, I'm a Canon 5D Mark IV shooter, but I still love you." Well, I'm going to be shooting that next week, Prince, so I'll let you know. I can't wait, actually. I'm looking forward to shooting it. Like I said, I was a big Nikon shooter, so I've never shot Canon. So I'm really looking forward to shooting with the Canon. I'm sure the 5D Mark IV is going to be an amazing camera. And I can't wait to try it. And like I said, I'll do a couple of tests for you guys that I can post. And let you know how they both go against each other. And particularly, like I said, it'd be interesting to do a skin tone test and show you straight out of camera and see how they look. If I do that, though, I'm not going to tell you which camera's which, and I'm going to let you guess, because that'll be the interesting thing to actually say. David said, yes, the Batis is $2,000 here in the States. Oh, yeah, it's expensive, so it must be around $4. It's probably nearly $4,000 here then, if that's, or it'd be over $3. Let me just come up. I'm just going to Google it just to see what that Batis is here in Australia. Let me go here. Let's have a look. Well, there you go. So it's 2,229 roughly here. Yeah, well, you could probably get it for $2,000. So let me check DigiDirect, because some of these are grey market ones. This would be more reliable. Well, there you go. So if you're not buying grey market, it's 2,799 here in Australia. Yeah, that's really expensive, really expensive. But like everything over here, stuff's really expensive. If I went for the 70 to 200, let's have a look at this. Because I'm curious to know what that is. See if it comes up. Oh, it's taken a while. I might just Google it. Let me Google, because I'd love you to compare what it is in as Americans to say me, guys, because I'm just curious. Sony 70-200mm 2.8 GM Australia. DigiDirect. So let's see what DigiDirect is. All right, so here in Australia, that's $3,748. Yeah, we get ripped off here in Australia, my God. So that sort of lets you know the price range. But yeah, that Batis is incredibly expensive for that focal length, isn't it? That's really quite dear, yeah. I don't know if I'd want to spend that sort of money with a lens like that, but you know what? If you love it and you like using it, well, there's no reason why you wouldn't pay for it, I suppose. What else have we got here? Casper said the Sony A9 video is sweet. Yes, it is. It does great video. I've been surprised how good the Sony A9 video is. David said he's going to wait for the Sony 135G Master. What else have we got? Jess said, please give us the Sony FE 135 1.8 or f2. I think these ones I looked at before, actually. Oh, Delta Dave, thank you so much for my production assistant. What else have we got? That's what we're talking about. Prince has saying that he's got a 5D Mark IV and he still loves me, and I'm saying I'm going to be shooting with that next week. If you're tuning in late, I'm actually going to be doing a Profoto A1 review next weekend. They've actually going to send me out a Profoto A1, and I'm going to be able to test it for a weekend. But they've only got a Canon version out at this stage here in Australia. They're not released, I think, for another month or so. But I'm going to have to try it with the Canon camera, so I'll be using the Canon as well as the Sony, because I can use it off camera with a Sony, but I can't use it on camera with the Sony due to you have to buy a Sony one, and that's not released for another, well, they haven't said yet, just said coming soon. So I will let you know how I go with the Canon. I've never shot one before, so I'll let you know. I've always shot Nikon, never shot a Canon in my life, so it'll be interesting. Princess here from Liverpool. What else have we got? Delta Dave made a donation. Thank you so much, mate. That means a lot to me. Van said, already have a A6 500. I'm thinking about buying a second camera. Which camera do you recommend? I'm thinking about buying full frame. Well, I'd wait, Van. Look, don't buy anything full frame at the moment. Unless you can get... Look, there's two ways of looking at this. I showed yesterday, if you go back to my previous video that I put on yesterday, I actually went through a shoot that I did with the A7R2, and the resolution on that camera is stunning. You can see bees in the background that I shot with the 70-200. That camera is still incredible. If you can get that camera really, really cheap because it's getting near the end of its life, that is still a really worthwhile camera. The other thing to do at the moment, though, if you're thinking about buying is, and you can wait, I would wait until the end of the year, because they're definitely, I would think, definitely going to announce something sometime this year. I'll be very surprised if they don't, with a new A7 III or something like that. So, Van, I'd probably wait a little bit at this stage if you can. The other thing you could do is to pick up a really good, cheap A7R2, which are great value at the moment if you want to do that. And that camera is still going to be fantastic for the next few years, as long as you want to shoot with such high resolution. So I'd be thinking about that, but I definitely would not be buying an A7 II, for instance. No way would I buy that sort of camera at the moment. I'd stay completely away from that. I'd wait or buy an A7R2. David said, David, what are your thoughts about using light meters? I use them all the time, David. I don't use them outside as much. I mostly use them in the studio. But I've been looking at people doing it with video, and they're using the same light meter that I use, and it tends to be really, really good. I'll just grab the one I use. I'll show you. I would show you, but I can't find it. I use a Sectronic. I'm going to pull it up, Dave, so I'll show you. Let me bring up... where are we? I've got to remember how to spell it. S-E-K... Sectronic. There it is. So I'm using... Once this comes up... I'm using this one here, which is the Sectronic Lightmaster Pro. Does it come up as products? Let me see. So the one I love, and I really do like it, is this one here. I've got this one. Oh, it might be the D8. Yeah, I think it's this one. So I'm using this one. It has a little ball head on the top. It's really, really good. You can calibrate this to your camera. There's lots of other features that you can use with this light meter. So I'm actually using this one, and I really do like it. I've had that for a couple of years. This may be even a slightly newer model than the one I've got, but it's got a touch LCD screen that you can use. It's a great light meter. So yeah, they're really, really good. So that's what I'm using. And I use it all the time, but mostly in studio. But there is a video function on that too, where it'll tell you exposure. And I have seen a number of videographers that use it to get an overall exposure, and it really nails the exposure. With the EVFs on Sony, I don't tend to use them outside as much anymore, but I definitely use it whenever I'm using flash. Because I like to, it does save time if you're using off-camera flash, that you can get immediately what your exposure is and stuff like that. So I do use light meters for that, yes. Still very, very worthwhile. What else have we got here? Let me come back down. Jess said it's night in Denmark here. Night in New York City as well. Yeah, it's just the start of the day here, guys. Like I said, I'm just about to go to Apple to pick up an Apple TV. I want 4K. I can't wait to get it. I'm a geek. I love Apple stuff. Nick and I said I was going to tell you about the Profoto buy. I did not want to give you gas. I should have known better. Well, you know what? The hard part for me is I don't really. At this stage, I'm not going to buy one, but. Well, I don't think I will. I'll probably love it when I start to use it, but it does really interest me to see how it works with the other Profoto B1s that I've got, and it looks amazing. So I'll let you know. Anyway, you'll see the review, and I'll do some live bits of it as well. But I get it next Thursday, so then I've got it for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so I'll be able to use it over the weekend. I want to do a night shot with it as well. Waiting for the A7 Mark III, yeah, that's what I probably would be doing too if I was buying a camera at the moment, or at least see what's released next before you buy anything. So I would be considering waiting at this stage before you buy anything, especially now, like I said, there's that rumour of the A7000. I certainly would be waiting now. It'd be just my luck. I'd go out and buy a new A6500 and then they would release the A7000 the next day. A7R2 is a great camera, and it is, and I still wouldn't hesitate buying that if you can get it cheap enough. Have you shot a cannonball? No. Van said, thanks, I did watch your live... Okay, so he's seen that video, yep. Sniper V said, David O, can you comment on the Star Eater petition that I keep seeing? They say Sony's not good. Well, you know what? It's true. I actually had this... I went to New Zealand again this year, just to sort of... get you to understand what's happened here. Last year I went to New Zealand and I did some amazing star shots. They were unbelievably beautiful. I was so happy with them, and it worked stunning with the I can't remember what I took. What I know it was the A7R2, and I can't remember what lens I took. It was a wide one, I think. But the results were outstanding. This year when I went, I wasn't aware of the Star Eater at that time. I actually did try and do the same photos, and they were nowhere near as nice, and the conditions were the same. And everything I tried, nothing would work, and none of them turned out as good as what the original ones were from last year. So all I can tell you is that from my opinion is that Star Eater is a problem. It is definitely a problem with the Sony cameras, and Sony do need to address that. I think it's something to do with it. They think it's noise and it's trying to write them out and correct the image. So it is an issue if you're doing star photography, and I can only sort of say from my aspect of doing the same shot with the same camera and same lens 2 years in a row, and New Zealand apparently is the best place on earth that you can shoot stars. It has the clearest sky of anywhere on earth, the one spot that I went to near Lake Tapako. But that section there has unbelievably clear skies, and the conditions were just the same, but the stars, no matter what I tried, and I tried over a number of nights, were nowhere near as good as the images I got the year before. So that's the only thing I can base it on from talking from my experience. The star issue definitely is an issue with Sony cameras, and it's something that they have to address. So I can only talk about what I've actually shot from. Michael's here. G'day, Michael. Nice to see you here. What else? Robert said, wait for the A9R. That's what I'm waiting on. Yeah, that's going to be an expensive camera. I don't need... Robert, the reason why I probably won't upgrade to that is I don't need anything bigger than what the A7R2 is giving me at this stage. I just don't need... I've got to be able to work with these files, and I've got to be able to store them, and I'm shooting so much I'll be buying hard drives like crazy. I'm going to stick with the A7R2 for at least a couple of years, I think, and then I'll see what happens then. Naturally, I'll have to upgrade it eventually, but I'll probably keep it for another couple of years. I'd buy an A7000 though in a heartbeat. G'day Ben, good to see you here as well. Oreo said, last Saturday I shot a baptism with my old Canon 135L on my A7S in manual mode with focus peaking, and wow, it worked great. That's great. That's so good to hear. So easy with 135 f2 to get perfect focus thanks to razor thin depth of field, and focus peaking makes such a difference with those sort of manual lenses that you use. Roberto said, hopefully I can adapt my San and Carl Zeiss A-mount lenses on the A9R. You should be able to. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. Ben's here. G'day, Ben. Casper said 42 megapixels is nice, but 24 megapixels is all you need. And yeah, it is. Look, for 90% of the work, I agree with you, Casper. 24 is the perfect amount of resolution if you're talking about a general camera, like, for instance, for weddings. If you're talking about things like that, that is the perfect camera. But let me just bring up this thing again, because I want to show you this. For people that haven't seen yesterday's video, I'll just show you where resolution can be important. So let me launch this. I've just got to find the actual image. I'm going to take you all through the shoot another day, guys, this one. Let me just go to where I actually shot it. It was images that I did yesterday with you, but I wanted to show you a particular one because I know that, like I said, there's a bee in the background. I've just got to find where it is. I think it was one of these. Let me just check. I know as soon as I see it because I can see the bee in the background. Let me just come through. You'll laugh when you actually watch it, guys, because it's really funny. That possibly has one. Here we go. I think it's this one. All right, so let me bring this up full screen for you. Now, I explained yesterday when I went through this shoot that the reason why I shot this was because I wanted to crop in later on, and I have done cropping in on this image, and I knew that I would probably have to do that. Where you can't beat resolution is if you're dealing with something that has lots and lots of details. And for instance, this was shot with the A7R2. Now, these were basically straight out of camera. They've only did a little bit of Lightroom editing. But this was shot with the 70-200, and it's at 104mm. But if you look at it, there's a B up here. Now, on my, like I said, the worst part is for you guys, you can't see it through you can't see this through YouTube, but I can see on this bee, I can see its actual feet, its wings, I can see the little antenna sticking out the front, and I can also see the line of yellow that's coming through the bee. The resolution on this A7R2 is incredible, and if you're dealing with things like that where you want to be able to crop in, it still makes a difference if you have resolution there. For instance, I've focused on Hannah's face. This has had no sharpening or anything yet done to it, so don't take it from that. Like I said, this is straight out of camera. But, you know, if I go into these areas here, this is where the A7R2 will excel, and you can't beat resolution if you're dealing with detail. Remember, if you're looking at a leaf or a flower, there's only so many pixels from a 20 megapixel file that can create that image. If you're dealing with an A9, there's an A7R2, there's obviously nearly double that amount of pixels in the image. So the image has to be more detailed. It has to have more detail than if you were shooting with a 24 megapixel file size. So if you're talking about things like that and you did want to crop in for some reason, and I did shoot this for that reason, because I want to be able to come up to the same image and have that the ability to crop in, for instance, with like that image there. The same image is basically taken here, and I've lost no resolution at all. So that's an area where you can't beat something that has resolution. So yes, I agree with you that 24 megapixel is ample enough if you were doing your normal type work, like in weddings. Like I said, for most of my weddings work, 90% of the shots now are probably shot with the A9 and the A6500, and then I'll bring out the A7R2 just to do the formal shots that I know they might want to build up into massive posters, or I definitely need that extra stop of dynamic range, because remember, the A7R2 has better dynamic range. Let me just come up to here and see what they're saying. 42 megabit, yeah, we just went through that. Forget about light meters, use TTL. I don't use TTL. I do look, Roberto, I do use TTL, and I only use TTL to get an initial exposure, and then I'll turn to manual. The problem with TTL is that if you use TTL, your exposures can vary all over the place, and that's the issue with using TTL. It's great to have to use TTL to get an initial exposure, but then whatever you do then, shift to manual, so then you can move around wherever you like and all the images are going to look exactly the same. The only reason why you should change your exposure settings is if you change aperture or you change your lights or the ambient changes. If that doesn't change, use manual. You should always use manual. Delta Dave said, Godox is crap. I own a ton of that garbage. I've never used it, Dave. But a lot of people seem to be really, really happy with it, but I've never used it. Like I said, for me as a professional working full-time, I want the gear to work every time that I want it. And I want to know that if I go out to somewhere and I have an issue with my gear, I can go to any hire shop and get the Profoto units. And all the hire shops hire Profoto, because nearly all the professionals use that type of gear. So it's important for me to have that type of high-end gear. But I mean, like I said, I can't comment on how good Godox is because I've never used it. But for what you pay for, it's probably fantastic. Michael's here, so hi Michael. Hi David, what do you think about the new iPhone X? I'm going to get it. Obviously you can't pre-order it yet. That's the reason why I haven't got the iPhone 8. You wouldn't have seen me today because the iPhone is released today, the iPhone 8, and they're queuing up outside the Apple stores, and that's where I'd be today. I'm one of the people that line up outside. I camp overnight and get the phone. Look, I'm a geek, guys. I'm the biggest geek on earth. I can't help myself, so I'll probably be doing that for the iPhone X. So I will get the iPhone X, and I think the camera interests me because it's better low light. So I can't wait to try that. Roberto said Explorer 600 is no joke. And yeah, and like I said, I can't comment on that, guys, because I haven't used them. But I've heard nothing but good reports about the Godox stuff, so that's all I can comment on. It's just not right for me. Sniper V said the next high-res Sony sensor better have selectable RAW megapixel sizes. I don't know why they don't give you that. Why don't they give you a light RAW version? I really wish they would. It's something that Sony should give you, and I don't know why they don't give you that offer. What else have we got? Sniper said, love the A7R2 and the detail, but don't always need 42. And that's why, remember I said there's no perfect camera, guys. There never will be. That's why I have the A9 and also the A7R2, because they work amazingly together. Fantastic. I don't think you'll ever will, well, not for a while anyway, I don't think you ever will get one perfect camera that is perfect for everything. What else have we got? Oreo said, I love your shots with the 70-200 f4. Yeah, that's a great lens, that. And Sniper V said the B. I know, it's incredible to get that. Like, it's just a little dot that you see on the screen, and you click in and there's detail in that. That's where I'm saying for the resolution on these cameras like the A7R2 is incredible. If you need detail, the only way you can get that is with a high megapixel sensor. And that's where you've got to be careful saying 24 megapixel is enough. For some shots, it's not. So you have to be careful. Casper said it's a cell phone. Yes, it is. That's the Apple, though, obviously. The S-Log is not coming to A9. They just rumour it so they can sell an A9 camera since it doesn't sell as they predicted. I hope you're wrong. I hope they do release it. Michael said, hey, Dave, I picked up a few of the Tascam DR10L. I like them a lot, much better than Zoom. Yeah, I know, I've looked at that, Michael. It does seem to be a really, really good unit. I've only got the Zoom H1s, but when I eventually replace them, I probably will be buying that unit as well. Yeah, it seems like a great little tiny unit. It seems fantastic. Mavfan said, I called it final approach as the bee is just about to land on the flower. I have it on my 500px account, photo moronic. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to have a look. Roberto said exactly why I prefer high megapixel sensors. And that's the thing, if you're dealing with landscapes, guys, I think you need the high megapixel sensors. If you're dealing with shooting landscapes, you need that. If I was going to go out and shoot again landscapes, I would be using my A7R2. Definitely, there's no doubt about it that I'll be using that. Michael said S-Log coming to the A9. There's rumours, Michael, that it's coming soon. I went through that in the earlier parts of the post. If you go back later, you'll be able to see that rumour. Aldrich said, can't wait till they announce the A7 III. Hopefully that will be in the next month or so. It may be an A7000 though, from these rumours I've just seen. It's interesting. TTL is a good start, then go to manual. Yep, I agree, Roberto. That's definitely the way you need to shoot. Always TTL to start with. and then immediately swap over to manual. Don't ever leave it on TTL, guys. It's no good for your work. It's no good for your consistency. You're going to have issues the second you move or change. You're going to have exposures all over the place. Remember, if you want to look professional, you want the images to look balanced in every shot. The only way you can do that is if you shoot in manual, especially if you're dealing with flash and stuff. Because the problem is, if you're shooting aperture and you're also shooting TTL, the exposures will be up and down all over the place. And that's terrible if you're dealing with consistency with work. Always shoot TTL if you like to start with. Get your initial exposure and then switch over to manual, and then nothing will change. Then only alter when the lighting changes. That's the only time you should then alter. Sniper V said, Godox is crap, great stuff, especially for the money. Yeah, it's not. Well, like I said, I haven't used it, so I don't think it's crap. It's like anything. You use what you can afford. There's no problem with using it at all. I've only heard good things about it as well, but I haven't used it personally, so I can't comment on it. Gregory said, no, don't buy the Tascam, get the Zoom H6. Well, I've got that. I've got the Zoom H6 here as well, but they're more for the portable stuff, Gregory. They're for sticking just in a groom's pocket or something like that with a lapel. So they're great. DR10L, they even come in white. Oh, I didn't know that, Michael. That's interesting. So they do come in white as well. Well, that's great for a bride. Fantastic. Iron de Brown's here, just came into the house, just about as I've just about finished. You came in a little bit late, Tony. Should have been a bit earlier. I'm earlier today because I'm just about to leave for the Apple store. I've got to go and pick up an Apple TV. I want the 4K version. It's the geek side in me. Any last questions, guys, before we finish? If you have any other questions, please leave them down below. Like I said too, the other thing too, in the comments, if you'd like me to test anything with the Canon camera that I've got, like against the A9 or anything like that, let me know. Put them in the comments down below, and I'll actually look at that when I do the testing next week with that Profoto A1 that I'm testing. So let me know about that too, because I'd love for you to give me some things that you'd like me to test. I'll be probably taking at least one or two models into Melbourne, into the city, because I want to try and do an evening and night shoot with it, with this A1 camera, A1 flash, the Profoto, to try it and see how it works. So let me know if you'd like me to test anything out. Seeing I've never shot with Canon before, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be the Mark IV, but it could be the Mark III. But I think it is definitely going to be, it'll be one of those two, and I'm trying to get the 70-200 2.8 lens to go with it. Any last questions, guys, before I finish off? Otherwise, I'm heading out for the day. It's coffee time. It's time to get my Apple TV. Woo! It's only an Apple TV and I'm excited. Oh, God, I'm a geek. I'm such a geek. So any last questions before we finish for the day? I haven't done... Oh, now just to let you know too, I haven't done the shoot anymore because I'm doing those as separate shoots. I thought it's still gone a fair while now, but I thought it was probably getting too long to be incorporating the shoots into these live discussions. So I'm just going to be doing those live, sort of going over shoots, demos as separate shoots. That way, this just becomes more the rumours, news, etc. and question time, rather than also then going to talking about shoots. So that's changed a little bit, guys, from what my normal shoot was. Well, we might call that a day for now, guys. So I'll see you for the next video. Oh, I've just, last one, Casper said, going to sell all my primes and go for the Apple X. I'm not going to be doing that. I am excited about getting it, though. All right, guys, so have a great day or evening. It's bedtime for most of you over in the States and Europe. The day's just starting for me here in Melbourne. It's a gorgeous spring day here today, so I can't wait to get out. So I'll see you all for the next video. Oh, thank you so much, Michael. You came in late and... what you said there? Susie, come with me? No, Susie's not going to come with you. I'm going to bring Susie over just for you, Michael. Hang on. Say hi to everyone, Susie. I love it. You know what? One time I'm going to bring Ken out because I've got Ken next door, and I'm going to sit Ken there and just see if anyone notices that Susie's been replaced by Ken. Oh, I love it. You're like too late. It doesn't matter, mate. You can go over all the other stuff. Go back and preview the video. It'll be posted now anyway, so you can go over. Let me know if you think A7000 is a possibility, because God knows whether that's going to happen or not. But wow, it's certainly an interesting rumour. So catch you later, guys, and I'll see you all for the next video. Have a great evening. Bye.